Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and Amy. Welcome to the Alex Bloodfire stream. I'd like to welcome you to the Alex Bloodfire stream. I'll just read your comment. Where are we now? Oh, gosh. Right. I'll just read that comment, Amy. So, as long as it doesn't rain too heavily when the ground's baked by heat, heavy rain will not soak in and will not likely cause flash flooding. Yes, I'm not using any natural light because outside is absolutely pitch black, so I've had to put the lighting on in order to get it, and it looks a little bit like I've been tangoed. So if I do that, it's really good light, but if I do that, it looks like I've been tangoed a bit for some reason, but it's not fake tan or anything. So it's, it's unbelievable. I can recommend a nice drink, peach. Yeah, I like iced teas. I'm really into iced teas. I never used to be, but I do. But I look out for that. I look out for peach iced tea then, and I'll give it a go. I've got mint at the moment, mint iced tea, which is pretty good. But I'm still not handling the heat well. I know that there's going to be a thunderstorm here shortly, but I'm not handling the heat at all. I don't like this heat. It's still too hot. I like it a bit cooler. Prefer mint. It is, mint is just so refreshing, and it's just so I don't know what it is about mint, but mint iced tea is really nice, really flavoursome. So yeah, it's cool. Right, so welcome everybody. The topic of today is the Tavistock Gender Clinic. It's going to be sued by ex-patients and ex-patients themselves. It's pretty gruesome what's happened, and it could be one of the biggest medical scandals that the UK has ever seen. So the cases are starting to come in, and we've got a legal company that's going to do some. They're going to sue mass. So this is a really good thing to talk about, because we've got a lot of trans activists who are pushing it and saying, well, you know, the Tavistock haven't done anything wrong, but they really have done things wrong, and we're going to find that out. We're going to see that. And even if it's not quite 1,000 people, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be a few out there who are going to sue. So as far as I know, these are the actual cases are predominantly medical negligence claims, and it's going to be for damages for the damage that's been done after a wrongful misdiagnosis, unnecessary breast amputations and bottom surgeries like mastectomies, unnecessary castrations, unnecessary body modifications, unnecessary prescription of drugs. So it's going to be puberty blockers. Children have been given puberty blockers, and adults have been given cross-sex hormones without really thinking about what they're doing, without, you know, the hospital really doing what they should. They've just been chucking them out. They haven't really been implementing things properly, and that's why the Tavistock's going to be shut down. That's why they are going to be sued. Simple. And that's it. So Amy says that I hope they are sued and hopefully cost them many millions of pounds. I really do as well. I hope that they're going to sue that Tavistock clinic to the ground and rip the NHS to pieces, because the NHS really do deserve what's coming to them after what they've done to these vulnerable, mentally ill children and mentally ill adults, you know, and young adults as well. It's really awful what's happened. So I really hope that this lawyer firm takes them to the ground and exposes. And I hope the cases, like the Kiera Bell case, I hope it exposes everything that the Tavistock have been doing. And Amy says that the NHS need to wake up call, and this hopefully will be part of it. And I totally agree. This could be, this will be the wake up call. I think the Kiera Bell case definitely woke the NHS up, and a lot came out of the Kiera Bell case. But I think you're right. You know, the NHS do need this wake up call, and yeah. This is a way to go forward. So I'm really sort of happy of what's happening. I mean, this is in the name of trans medicine, and it's not really trans medicine at all. This is gender ideology in full fling. This is what's been pushed, you know, and this is what the NHS have been engaging in. They're not doing in trans medicine. They're not. This is simply gender ideology, um, completely. Yep. So if there's anyone else out there who wants to comment, let's chat about this subject. We can really get this off the ground. Or, you know, if you're watching this afterwards, you know, comment underneath, like the post, and we can talk about it on future streams. But I really do appreciate anybody commenting, anybody saying anything. You know, it will sort of get things going, and you know, it will basically highlight, you know, what the Tavistock are doing. We need as much information out there, you know, bring anything into this stream, you know, and anything you can. And if you are a victim of the Tavistock and you're wanting to know where to actually, you know, where to actually join in this mass legal, you know, case, I'll give you the name of the lawyers, but just contact me. You know, you can DM me, you can tweet me at Alex Bloodfire, you can get to me at Alex Bloodfire, you can DM me on both platforms. You know, I'm very contactable, and I will pass you the details on so that you are able to be part of this massive negligence claim that's going to hit the Tavistock. It's and it is really likely to be one of the biggest medical scandals to hit Britain, likely ever. I mean, it could be big, it could be really big. So, you know, if you're out there and you know you're suffering and you've had negligence, you know, done to you, you've had horrible things done to you at the Tavistock clinic, you know, get in touch with the lawyers that are suing them. I'll mention them later on. And yeah, I mean, that's the way forward is to really rip this clinic to pieces so it doesn't happen again, because as you know, there are other clinics setting up. If we, you know, if you expose in your cases what's happened in the Tavistock, these people won't be able to continue to do what they won't take over what the Tavistock finished, or the Tavistock started, should I say. So let's bear in mind that many children have been sent to the Tavistock, and I understand the youngest to be just 5-year-old. However, this is no longer the case. It's not 5 years old. I think the youngest was actually 2 years old. I mean, nobody under 5 years old knows the gender identity. I'm not really sure anyone under 6 years old knows the gender identity, and nor should they be pushed at that age. You know, if they're having issues with the gender identity, this is something they should be sorting out in adult life. I'm not really well, I'm absolutely certain that 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 year olds shouldn't even be engaging in gender ideology. Engaging in dealing with their gender identity at all. It's horrible. So my question is, why did the Tavistock clinic take these cases? And when they did take these cases, why weren't the parents of these children investigated? Because, you know, bringing a 2-year-old, transing a 2-year-old child, I get a gut feeling that something is very wrong with that, because it is. Something's not right when you're transing a 2 years old. So I read 3 years old, but wouldn't. It may have been 3 years old actually, but I think I did read. I did read 5, then I read 3, and I think I did read 2. So I think it is 2 years old. I think the youngest was 2, but you read 3 years old. But it wouldn't surprise me any younger, although it's all shocking. It is. I mean, even a 3-year-old shocking, a 4-year-old shocking, a 5-year-old shocking, and even a 6-year-old shocking. Really, I mean, this is how young they're trying to get kids and saying, you know, you're born in the wrong gender. It's really horrible. I mean, these kids, they might not want. They might be a tom girl, they might be a tomboy, they might be gender non-conforming. You know, you might get girls playing with boys' toys or boys playing with girls' toys. This is what they're doing with the children, and that's why this needs highlighting and it needs exposing and it needs stopping. But yeah, it may very well have been 3, but I thought I'd read somewhere it was 2, but it could be 3. Yep. So, you know, if there's anyone out there, please get chat on this stream, you know, about the Tavistock. You know, particularly if you've got anything to highlight, if you've got anything to, you know, bring out about the Tavistock, comment, because this mass legal action against the Tavistock is going to be big. I'm pretty confident of that. It's going to be big. There's going to be legal cases, and there's going to be so much brought out in this comment. So, you know, Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to ask you how everybody is doing today. I mean, what's the weather like out there? I know it's a little bit off the subject, but I'm just wanted to say that the weather here in England is hot, hot, hot. It's cooled down a few degrees today, but I'm finding the weather still unbearable, and I could certainly not live in a hotter country than this. So if you're living in a hotter country than this, let me know in the comments where you're from, and let me know how hot it is today, or and how you actually manage to cope, because I just cannot cope with this weather. I've been inside for the last 3 days. I just won't go out, and I've got the fan on. I've got the coolant on. Cooling. I haven't got a cooling system, but anything that can make it cool, I've done. But I cannot. So perhaps I'm more suited to Iceland, really. I'm a bit partial to a lovely bit of icy cold snow, and I'm looking forward to the snow. Although when it's here, I'll probably be moaning it's too cold, but we will find that out because I'll be streaming and I will be letting you know. Yeah, I think most of the world's having a heat wave. If they are, let me know in the comments. So right, okay. So I'm going to move on to carry on talking about this. So the lawyers say that there's up to 1,000 patients could join this mass litigation with claims that former patients are facing physical and psychologically permanent scarring after their treatment, or shall we say medical negligence, at the Tavistock Gender Clinic. You're on 25 centigrade. I think it was a little bit higher than 25, but yeah. You've got aircon, so that's good. I went to the shop once. I left the house once in the last 3 days to go to the shop, and they had aircon on, and it was so cold, and I really loved it. But aircon's fantastic. I'm thinking we might have to get it in the house if it's going to get as hot as this. We might have to invest in aircon. But yeah, that's yeah, brilliant that you've got aircon. Yeah, but 25 is still too hot. It's got to lower a little bit. So yeah, right. So the lawyers, okay. Yes. So okay. So just asking, was you referred to the Tavistock Gender Clinic? And if you're suffering the consequences of the incorrect treatment, perhaps you too should join, or not you two, you should definitely join the mass litigation. It's not about the money, even though you'll get compensation, likely, very likely, through what they've done. It's also about exposing what they've done in your court cases, because this will be quite big. And it's so that it doesn't happen again, so that because we know there's other gender clinics setting up. If we don't learn the lesson from the Tavistock, which a lot of trans activists out there are pretending nothing's happened, it will just simply carry on. That's why we need to highlight it. The lawyers you need to speak to are law firm Poggust Goodhead. You can contact them directly. They're easy contactable. Or you can get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to provide your details to them. I'll forward your name to them, let's say. I'm happy to do that, because I think it's really, really important to expose the Tavistock for really what it is, and just ensure that people know really what's happened. Although I know what's happened, although it's all over the press what's happened, there are people trying to cover it up, and they will do. But hopefully this case will really highlight big issues, just like the Kiera Bell case did. I mean, that paved the way forward for all this, and I'm really, really glad that Kiera Bell made such a big effort about the wrong and horrible things that have happened to her. And that's one thing I wanted to say about Kiera Bell. All the horrible things that have happened to her. Now, in all the medical negligence cases, and I've spoken to a lot of people who've sued, I know of a lot of cases. Nobody ever says, they went into, if somebody went into hospital and they chopped the wrong leg off, you don't get a gang of people saying, well, it's his fault. Do you know what I mean? And it's similar in the fact that when Kiera Bell and other detransitioners that are now detransitioners, other people that have gone in, they weren't in a good place at the time. They were ill. They were, mentally ill. Some of them, a lot of them, they weren't in a good place. And to suggest it's their fault of what happened to them, it wasn't. There were adults there who really should have known better. There were doctors who should have known better. The NHS should have done better. You can't blame these people because it's not their fault. And I think that's one thing that the court case will find out. But I'm sure you're going to have trans activists who are so obsessed with trans ideology. I don't know what this obsession in the last few years have been with trans people and trans ideology. I really don't know what the obsession is. I don't know why people are so obsessed, but you know, this we'll carry on highlighting it, and this case will really bring quite a lot out. So so if you know, if you've been to the Tavistock, or you've even, you know, there's even the other clinic, the Sandyford clinic in Glasgow. I mean, I don't know whether Pogus Goodhead are looking, you know, to take cases about that yet, but you know, if you suffered in the Sandyford clinic in Scotland, it might be worth contacting Pogus Goodhead, just to see, you know, to get on their list, because there might even be a mass litigation against Sandyford later on, because Sandyford have definitely done things they're not supposed to be doing, and I think that they've been very similar, if not the same as Tavistock. But we will find that out. There are people asking for the Sandyford clinic to be closed, but there we go. So last month it was announced, if people don't know, that it was announced that the NHS is shutting down the Tavistock clinic for good. And they announced that last month, after a critical and damning report which highlighted that this clinic is just not safe for children or a viable long-term option. The Tavistock Gender Clinic is going to be closed down, and it's going to, but as I've mentioned, it's going to be replaced by regional services in spring 2023. That's why we need to highlight what's happening in the Tavistock, so that these regional services don't follow the Tavistock's horrible, disgraceful example. Yeah, so and that is why this mass litigation is important, to expose controversial Tavistock for what they are. Yeah, that's yeah. So please also know that there is currently a gender identity development service based in Leeds, West Yorkshire. It was, or is, a satellite clinic for the Tavistock. It opened in 2012, and the service opened for over 17-year-olds, and then the endocrine, it is endocrine support, I've spelled that wrong, endocrine support was also extended to the Leeds Children's Hospital, at the Leeds Gender Infirmary, at the Leeds Infirmary, site in 2013. So I'm presuming this site will stay in Leeds. I'm presuming this will then become one of the regional centres, without the need for the Tavistock. So but we do all need to keep a close eye on this gender clinic in you know, in Leeds, like we do the other regional ones, because like the Tavistock, clinics like this cannot be trusted. We cannot really trust the NHS, you know, to stop, you know, to be sensible, and we need to watch them. We need to, you know, we need to keep a very close eye on them, and we also need to expose them. So if there's any doctors there that see things that are not right, and they're trying to trans gay kids, they're trying to trans 2-year-old kids, you know, they're trying to, you know, they're doing things they're not supposed to, they're giving people puberty blockers after one session, it is up to you to expose that, because vulnerable children who are mentally ill cannot do anything until it's too late. It is up to you. You are the doctors, you are the nurses, and if things are not right, you need to expose it. I'm always around. You can get to me at Alex Bloodfire. You can tweet me at Alex Bloodfire. You know, you can DM me at both. I will be putting out an email, so there will be an email that you can contact me on my website soon. So you can get in touch with me. I've got a network of people who I can put you in touch with. But don't let children suffer, and don't even let vulnerable adults suffer. You know, so that's that. And as I've mentioned already about the Sandy Gender Clinic in Glasgow, Scotland, what are we going to do about that clinic? You know, they've been up to very similar or the same sort of things. I mean, you know, is it a case of the NHS? I know we've got one of the world's actually dangerous trans activists in Scotland, which is of course Nicola Sturgeon. You know, she's really gender obsessed, like the SNP government. But is it a case of that the NHS is going to stand up, the Scottish NHS is going to stand up and say, you know what, you know, we've got to do something about this clinic? Or is it the case that they need people to sue? I know there are people speaking out about this clinic. It might be time if you also contacted Pogus what was the name of that August Goodhead. It might be time even to just say, look, you know, here I am, you know, if you decided to do a mass litigation against that clinic, here's my name, just so that they've got a few people, you know, that they can start. I think that might happen. You know, but if people need me to be the middleman, you know, contact me. I think the biggest, most important thing is exposing what's happened, so that it doesn't happen again. We need to learn. Well, the NHS certainly need to learn from their mistakes. So you know, then as I say, there may be mass litigation against this clinic too in the future. You know, it may be a different lawyer, it may be a different lawyer company, and a different lawyer firm, should I say? You know, but at least Pugost, if you know, would have your details. Perhaps that would be a good idea to say, look, if you ever do sue that, or you know, find out who they are. I hope Puggles don't mind me saying that. Actually, I never thought about that, but I hope they don't mind me. But you know, it might just be worth your while just saying, you know, I suffered in that clinic, and they could even consider a mass litigation against the Sandyford Gender Clinic as well. But we'll see. Maybe we need a bit more time. Maybe there's things that need to happen in the Sandyford Gender Clinic before you know, we take more action on them. And what's the rest of the world going to do? You know, are they going to wake up after the Tavistock? You know, are the rest of the world seeing what's happening in the Tavistock? Well, we can see what's happening with the Tavistock. It's now been shut down after a damning report. Now we're going to have quite a few people going to be suing the Tavistock for medical negligence. The rest of the world surely is seeing this, you know, and you've got clinics, you know, all over your countries, particularly America, you know, that are doing even worse things. I mean, America are actually cutting kids. You know, what is America going to do? You know, because now is the time to start. Now is the time to jump up and say this shouldn't be happening. Now's the time to expose, you know, what's happening. Don't sit in silence. You know, if you're working in a gender clinic, you need to speak out. Now is the time to speak out, to stop this nonsense, this horrific butchering that's been happening to all these people, you know, including children, vulnerable adults. There are a lot of, contrary to popular belief, trans activists will pretend that there's hardly any detransitioners. They're everywhere. I'm seeing them all over Twitter, Facebook. They're on other social media sites. There's quite a lot of detransitioners who have realized that they've made the biggest mistake of their life. And not that they've made the biggest mistake of their life. It's the medical profession, the doctors who should have known better, who've done that to them. And yeah, I keep seeing it time and time again, where these detransitioners keep publicly saying, why have these people been allowed to do this to me? So that's why we need to speak out. It's why we need to highlight what the Tavistock is. It's why you need to speak out about your gender clinic, no matter where you are in the world, even if you're in the Middle East as well. You know, that I know there are things happening in the Middle East in gender clinics, if we can call that, in the Middle East. You know, that there are things that are happening. It's pretty well known that in Iran, they're converting gay kids. It's as simple as that. They've got converting gay people in Iran. You know, the gay people have got a choice. They either convert into a different gender or they face the death penalty. So, you know, if you've got information on things in other countries, contact me. I've got the people I can put you on to. So please do that. So, where are we now? So these clinics are damaging our children. We all know that. We can all see what's happening. It doesn't take rocket science to look at the press, to look at these reports, to look at what's happening. You know, these clinics are damaging our children. They're damaging our vulnerable adults, and it needs to stop. We can't carry on like this. You know, if people want to change genders, they shouldn't be cut at 13 as they are in America. You know, if people want to change genders, you know, we shouldn't really be transing 2-year-olds. If people want to change genders, they should be really doing it as an adult. You know, they shouldn't be taking puberty blockers, because nobody, you know, children are still learning, you know, and especially vulnerable children. And it's the vulnerable children that are being targeted. So, you know, out of the Tavistock and out of the damning report, it basically has highlighted that children have been given puberty blockers after just one session. this is really what has come out of the Tavistock. It's not my words. This is proof. This is what's happening. You know, children shouldn't be given life-changing, damaging drugs because, you know, puberty blockers do damage. You know, they've got a whole list of side effects, and you shouldn't be giving this to children after one session. You know, I'm not really sure that children should be puberty blockers at all. It should be a decision that you're making in adulthood. And the reason for that is there's so many detransitioners now that are coming out because so many mistakes have been made. If we weren't doing this to children in the first place, this wouldn't happen. So this is damaging to ordinary children. You know, if you want to argue that there's that trans people, you know, need to change genders, well, if we weren't doing this at a very young age, a lot of children wouldn't be caught up with it. So it does need to stop. We do need to highlight it. We do need to expose it. So if you're in a position, you know, of seeing that things are going on that shouldn't be, please highlight it out. You know, this makes trans medicine harmful. Okay, if you want to call it trans medicine, and I'm putting trans medicine in brackets actually, you know, trans medicine is harmful to normal children. Trans medicine is harmful to normal adults because, you know, even if you've got children, you've got trans people. Okay, they are a rarity, you know, and they always were. You know, and you know, in order to justify cutting kids up, so many people are being caught up in this and they're suffering horrendously. So I'll just read this comment from Amy, which says that puberty is a natural part of human development. Stopping or interfering with the natural growth process of the human body is never a good thing. And you're absolutely, yeah, you're right, Amy. It is. And why are people wanting to go against nature? You know what I mean? They're cutting healthy parts off the body. Why? You know, they're fighting nature, and they're doing this as kids. You know, they're doing this to them as children, and that's why people, it's why it needs to be exposed. It's why activists, and I really appreciate all the activists out there speaking out about this. Puberty is natural, and children should be allowed to go through puberty. They shouldn't really be having puberty repressants, you know, which causes all, it makes them it can make them sterile. It can, there's a whole range of things that these puberty blockers are doing to children, and a lot of these children would just normally grow up and just be, and you know, they wouldn't be they wouldn't be confused about the gender. They just get on with their life, and that's right. It is a natural part of development. Yeah. So if the NHS and gender clinics across the world cannot diagnose patients properly, which they clearly not, because this is what we're now seeing, trans medicine really is a danger to children, and it's a danger to vulnerable adults, because it's bound to happen that too many people have been caught up in it, and they are. That's what's happening. So we do need to ensure that, you know, if this is what trans medicine is, you know, and too many, and a lot of people have been caught up, as we're going to find out in the Tavistock mass legal cases that are coming up, we're going to find that out. Then it's a danger. You know, trans medicine needs to change. It's as simple as that, and we need to stop transing our children. We need to stop giving it to our children. Overwhelming majority of patients referred to the clinics are mentally ill. They are autistic, or they're sexual abuse victims, or they're in a very bad place. So they're not in the right frame of mind to be making decisions of having, for example, their breasts amputated or castrated. These are very big life-changing decisions, and they're not in the right place to be making these decisions. Certainly, and so the NHS shouldn't be giving people drugs after one session. They shouldn't be rushing them through. You know, they really should be, you know, they need to have psychiatric evaluations. I remember when they started this business with trans people, you had to have psychiatric evaluations for 2 years before you could change your gender, as it was. If you can change your gender, I don't believe you can. That was, when did that change? You know, when did it become that, you know, children can go to a gender clinic like the Tavistock and get puberty blockers after one session? This is a no-no. This is a definite no-no. So, you know, why are we doing this to our vulnerable people? I mean, cutting mentally ill people up, only for them to find out later that they've just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Except, like I said, it isn't their mistake. It's the hospitals and the adults in the room who should have known better, who inflicted this damage on them. So, like I say, if the hospital cannot diagnose gender confused people properly, then this type of medicine is really a concern and a danger to children and adults, which is why we've got a lot of people who've been cut and they've had healthy parts removed for no other reason other than the fact that they've been in the wrong place at the wrong time and the adults have rushed them through. And that is what's happening. This is what we're going to find out with the Tavistock. This is why we need to speak out. This is why we need people who are working in this. If you see things that are not right, particularly in America, I mean, cutting 13-year-olds and 12-year-olds is not acceptable. So, you know, if people are supposed to be trans, do you know what I mean? Then how come these mistakes are being made regularly? And they are. You know, if we're saying that the trans people out there, they know they're trans, and then all of a sudden they go through all this, you know, medical, you know, drugs, and then they cut up, and then all of a sudden they're not trans. How are these people trans then? How is this all happening? So either too many people are being caught up in this, and we need to pull back and say, we need to be chatting to people. We need to ensure, you know, that we've got things right, which they're not doing in anywhere in the world. Okay, or you know, the fact of the matter is that trans was, you know, it's not actually as it's not a category of people that we've been led to believe. So which is it? You know, we need to protect people. We need to protect people from trans medicine. So that's what we need to do. I'm glad really that the UK is finally waking up to the negligence that's happened in the Tavistock. It's a big medical scandal in full view. As time goes on, nobody, including deluded trans activists, will be able to cover the horrors of what took place there. What my concern is the rest of the world need to start waking up now. You know, activists or anybody need to start speaking out. We need more activists speaking out. We need more whistleblowers in these clinics. And this is all across the world. This isn't just related to America and Britain. This is going off in nearly every single country. And you know, if you're working in one of these clinics, you need to speak out, you know, and you need to speak out, you know, as a whistleblower, you know, to expose what's happened. Something that came in over the last few days, and I have a concern about this. So, you know, the Tavistock, after a damning report's been shut, you know, it's going to be shut down. We've got the Kiera Bell case, which has highlighted the Tavistock. It's, you know, it's pretty shit what's happened. And now we've got the Irish Health Service executive, okay, that's still referring Irish children to the Tavistock in London to deal with gender identity issues, even now. You know what I mean? I mean, I worry for the Irish children and the vulnerable Irish adults. You know, why is Ireland treating their residents like this, their population like this? This is horrible. It's really, really not right, and it needs to be addressed really. Now, 4 senior doctors, they represent the National Gender Service, have raised concerns, rightfully raised concerns, after the HSC stated it would continue to use the Tavistock, you know, despite these critical reports of their treatment. So the Health Minister, Stephen Donnelly, has agreed to meet doctors representing the National Gender Service to discuss this. But my question is, why the hell are Irish children still being referred to the Tavistock after what the Tavistock Gender Clinic have done? I mean, don't they believe Kiera Bell? Don't they believe that case? Don't they believe that, you know, all these people that are going to be, you know, suing the Tavistock? Don't they believe the fact that we've had a damning report that's shutting the Tavistock down? Or do you just want to, you know, I mean, what is the reason? I mean, can people in Ireland let me know why these kids are still being mushed through when, you know, we've got all that's happened in the Tavistock? Let me know. I mean, is it the fact that people in society no longer care for others? I mean, are we becoming a more colder society, and that children are happy to send children to a clinic that's been condemned in a report and to be shut down? What about the parents of these kids? You know, I mean, what about the parents of these children, you know what I mean, who are happily holding their hand and taking their kid to a clinic in London that's just been condemned, you know, by a report, and it's going to be shut down. I mean, you know, maybe it's the parents really that we should be concerned about as well, or more, or the medical profession in Ireland. I think maybe the medical profession as well. Um, you know, or is it the fact that the Irish politicians just don't think the else they don't actually, you know, they don't care about the kids and their health anymore, you know? Is that what it is? I mean, let me know, because I'm confused why, you know, the health service in Ireland is referring the kids there, you know, and a lot's going to come out about this, and it's going to create a bit of an embarrassment for the health the Irish health service, really, to you know, it's gonna it's you know, it's going to be really it's not going to be good, you know, for the HSC in Ireland. It's not going to be good for the health service executive when all this, you know, even more is going to come out about the gender clinic. It's crazy. It's very, very crazy, and it's, you know, the Irish health service need to sort of recognize that, you know, it's your own reputation's on the line as well. If you're going to refer to people on a clinic, okay, to a clinic that you know is just no good. It's your reputation, so you need to address that. Right, so I've run out of things to say on that. So I'm going to just go down to my GETTR account, just to run through the GETTR account, just to give you sort of the latest on what I've been putting on my GETTR. As you know, I like GETTR better than Twitter now. Twitter did ban me, or they locked my account for 6 months for a article that I put up. I shared an article, it generated a photograph, and they said that I weren't allowed to put the photograph up. It was against their rules, but that was after they changed the rules on photographs. But they wouldn't let me win the case, and I did hold it out for 6 months. They wouldn't let me do it. So you know, I hope one day Twitter goes by the wayside. I think it will. I think Twitter have upset a lot of people. I've seen the recent case with J.K. Rowling, where somebody has given her a death threat, and despite the fact that J.K. Rowling has gone to the police, it's quite serious what happened. You know, Twitter kept that up for quite a long time. It kept it up all day, in fact. And I think it's just absolutely unbelievable what Twitter are like. And I think because of this, I think eventually people are just going to find other platforms. There's so many we no longer have we got Facebook and Twitter. Now we've got hundreds of platforms. A lot of the kids are going on to other sites, video sites. I think Twitter really have sealed their own death. And I think that Twitter will eventually people will just walk away from it. And people keep saying that to me time and time again on GETTR and other platforms. Why are people still using Twitter? And of course, you know, there is a lot of people on there at the moment, but celebrities are moving away. The amount of doctors that I'm coming across on platforms like Gab, Parler, GETTR is quite a lot. I mean, a lot of doctors are moving over, and so are celebrities. There's a lot of celebrities on there. So, you know, if you're out there and you're thinking, you know, what platform should I have? Well, you try GETTR, try Minds, try Gab. You know, the Twitter doesn't rule our freedom of speech. Twitter doesn't rule, you know, us. You know, they're just one platform, and the overwhelming majority, contrary to popular belief, the overwhelming majority of the world are not on Twitter. Okay, even in America, it's estimated, I think, about 1 in 10 people are on Twitter. So 90% of Americans do not have a Twitter account. It's true. So right, so I'm going to run down, okay, some things which I'm hoping, if you know, if people are watching this and they, you know, are debating on whether to, you know, become gender critical or condemn trans ideology or find out what's going on, I'm hoping that some of the things that I'm going to say that I've put on my GETTR account over the last few days will help you to decide whose side to be on. So with the first thing that I gettered, okay, on my GETTR account, and if you want to follow me on GETTR, I'm Alex Bloodfire on the GETTR platform. If you want to contact me, you can now DM me on GETTR. They've also started the DM on GETTR, and GETTR do have millions and millions of people on there. I'm coming across more celebrities. I'm coming across a lot of like doctors, I've said, but there's a lot of politicians are on GETTR. Even some UK politicians are starting to get on GETTR. So, give it a go. It's, don't let Twitter rule the roost. Don't let Twitter rule the population, because the overwhelming majority of population are not on Twitter. Okay. And we don't need Twitter to tell us what we're allowed to say and what we're not allowed to say. So the first thing that I've gettered, okay, is a third of UK hospitals now are using the silly woke terms like pregnant person instead of mothers. And this is because of they're scared. Our own NHS is scared of deluded trans activist campaigners with their trans agenda. That's at the top of my GETTR account at the moment. Yeah, I mean, what do people think about that? What do people think that the NHS are bowing down to trans activists and refusing to call, mothers? They're refusing to call mothers. Instead, they're calling them pregnant person, or people who have babies. It's so nasty, it's so horrible, and that's why trans ideology will never win. Okay, because it's just a nasty thing that they're doing. It's it's a really horrible thing what these trans activists are doing, and these trans activists, I think the overwhelming majority of population agree with me, and they agree with us gender critical people. They don't think that this is right. The majority of people don't think it's right that women should be called pregnant persons. They don't think that mothers should be called pregnant persons. The overwhelming majority of people don't think that, and we know that. So please don't support trans activists. They're wrecking the very fabric of our society. The next GETTR that I put on my GETTR was, according to training materials, okay, the Michigan Department of Education is telling teachers to hide transgender students' names and pronouns behind their backs. That's according to the training materials which have now come to light. I've spoken to a couple of people in Michigan actually who said they'd no idea this was going on, and they're going to look into this because may have peaked them, or they may already be peaked, I think. But it just shows you that this is actually going on all over the world. This is actually going on in the United Kingdom, where teachers and head teachers are hiding transgender students' identities behind their parents' backs. I don't think this is a good. Certainly don't think we should be transing kids at all, but we certainly shouldn't be doing things behind parents' backs. So if you're not concerned about this, I mean, this is happening in Michigan. This is happening all over the States. It's happening all over the UK. I understand it's happening in Australia. It's likely happening in South America and Central America, like Mexico and Brazil. It's happening certainly happening in Canada. It's happening throughout the Western world. Teachers are going behind parents' backs and changing students' names. It's really horrible. I mean, they're taking this right away they're taking the rights of bringing up the child away from the parents. We shouldn't be. There's one simple answer for this: we really shouldn't be transing kids, because children are still learning. They don't know whether they're in the wrong gender or not, because actually nobody's in the wrong gender, and that's proven. Nobody's born in the wrong body. If you want to express yourself in a different gender, you shouldn't really be doing that as kids, and it shouldn't be done behind parents' back in the way they are. So the next GETTR, which I wanted to report on, was that a woman has received a visit from the police after sticking in a window stating trans ideology erases women. And well, basically, she put out. She actually recorded the entire police visit. That's on my GETTR. If you want to actually listen to that recording, I'm not going to read that out because I'm just a bit worried about copywriting, and I'm also worried because obviously it's a police officer that's speaking, so I'm not going to repeat what he says. But if you want to listen to that actual recording, that's on my GETTR account. It's also on my Twitter account of a woman who had a visit from a police officer for simply saying trans ideology erases women. I want to make it absolutely clear tonight that trans ideology does, without a doubt, erase women. Trans ideology erases gay men, and there may be gay men sticking up for, trans ideology. They may very well be sticking up for Stonewall, but trans ideology and all this rubbish with trans is erasing gay men. It's, and they're having to, what they're trying to do is redefine gay men. They're trying to say that gay men should have women, biologically born women in the dating pool. And they're doing the same with lesbians. Trans ideology erases lesbians. We can see that. They're also doing it. They're also getting to say that lesbians have penises. Lesbians do not have penises. Okay. They're also saying that lesbians should include biologically born men, okay, in their dating pool. Then they're not a lesbian. It's as simple as that. So trans ideology, with the very fact of what it's doing, does erase women. It erases gay men. It also erases lesbians. It actually also erases heterosexual men as well, because it's saying that heterosexual men, and this is what I keep saying to a lot of heterosexual guys, it's stating that you have to include biologically born men, if they say they're women, okay, in your dating pool. So it's actually erasing everybody. Okay. But I wanted, again, to make it absolute, clear that trans ideology erases women. Absolutely. This woman is absolutely right. And this police officer that visited her today, okay, or was it yesterday? Sorry. It may have been yesterday. I don't know when it happened. It was yesterday or today. And the fact of the matter is that recording has embarrassed the police force again. It's embarrassed that policeman, because that policeman's out of order. Okay, completely out of order. So have a listen to it and share it if you want. Share the article that is on. It's entitled "A Visit from the Religious Police." The actual article, it is. Have a listen to it. But again, I'm going to say absolute certain. Trans ideology erases women. Okay, I've proved it. I've said it does. There we go. It does. This woman's right, and she's received, I think we can call it an injustice, by a policeman knocking on her door and visiting her, in the way that they have. Police shouldn't be doing that. We need to stop the police doing that. They shouldn't be doing this at all. But trans ideology does erase women. Okay, we all know that. That's what many activists like myself have been complaining about for years. We've got, now this was 2 days ago. Did I mention this? Yeah, I think I did. I think I mentioned it, so I've gone down, so I'm running out of things to say now, but I'll mention this again. So if you're out there, you know what I mean, and you're sort of on the fence about, why, why you feel you should be encouraged to become gender, critical, or you need to speak out. Another one is that a woman has been suspended from Twitter for hateful conduct for simply asking why a man was allowed to compete against a young woman in the Gaelic football championship. What you've got to realize is that one of the questions that I've asked on that GETTR is, why is Twitter against women's rights? This is women's rights. Men are invading women's sports. We can see that all over the world. We can see that with Thomas. We can see that with many trans-identified men, that's biologically born males, who are going into sports and taking away the medals. They're invading it. So women who question this are being suspended from Twitter. That's it. So that's why, you should consider other platforms. You should consider GETTR. You should consider Minds, Parler, Gab. There are many other platforms out there. Please consider other platforms. Don't let Twitter do this to women. Twitter are also suspending gay men routinely. They're also suspending lesbians routinely. I'm coming across quite a few gay men who've been suspended or had their accounts locked or whatever. They're doing this regularly. If you speak out against a dangerous trans ideology, okay, you are likely to get your Twitter account suspended. Okay, so please do speak out. And the last question that I'm going to say, and please, anyone in the comments, let me know, is who allowed male rapists to be housed in women's prisons and why? What a sick thing to do. to women, you know what I mean, by putting a male rapist who has raped women already, to put them in women's prisons, you know, and of course some of them have gone on to rape, which is exactly what I mean. Whose idea was this? And if you know that, let me know, because I'd love to expose them. I'd love to expose the men or the women, but it's probably likely men, who forced the prison services anywhere in the world, you know, to put biologically born males in there, biologically born male rapists in women's prisons. Let me know who these people are. We'd like to expose them. So I knew I wasn't going to get an hour. Well, I'm surprised I got 50 minutes out of this today, actually. But I've run out of things to say now, because I am quite busy on my other job at the moment. So that's why I'm not getting a lot out. So I'd like to say I will be on Wednesday. On Wednesday, let me see what the title is on the Wednesday's title. So if I can find it. So on Wednesday, yep, I'm going to ask the question: is the tide? Is that right? Is that the way it is? Yeah. Is the tide finally turning on gender ideology? So we're going to have a look at gender ideology, and have a look at some of the good and bad things that have happened with you know, see if the tide is turning. The tide is definitely turning. There's a lot of hard work to go, but you know, please join me on Wednesday from 7 o'clock Turf Island time. I look forward to seeing everybody. Thank you, Amy, and everybody out there for joining me, and everyone who watches these afterwards. But thank you, Amy, for joining me and you know, taking part in the conversations. I really do appreciate that, Amy. Really appreciate that you've taken the time and effort to you know, chat. You have a good evening as well. Take care. I don't know what you're going to have for lunch. I've had some chips earlier, and I think I might, I don't know whether to have rice or pasta, but I might do that. I don't know. I'll have a look what I was gonna. I don't know what there is to have, but yeah, I'll find something. I'm gonna have a nice coffee or a nice tea. But yeah, have a good evening, Amy, and enjoy whatever you're having to eat. And I will see everybody on Wednesday.